What's up, YouTube? Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys my take on the whole creationism versus evolution. Now, first of all, I understand both sides of the coin on this one. So this isn't necessarily to knock people and how they feel. It's just more so how I feel. So, I mean, take it how you want to take it. You know, my goal isn't to offend anybody, but it's just to really put it out there. So, first of all, here's my stance. I believe in both. I believe that they work hand in hand. And I know that there's some literature out there that kind of tries to connect the dots or draw parallels between religion and science. So, you know, those books are out there, and of course you have your people who believe in evolution, and you have those who believe in creationism. But like I said, I believe in both. Now, here's why, and this is what led me to believe in both. And before I get started, I was automatically drawn to believing both because, to me, evolution doesn't stand on its own. Neither does creationism. Now, as far as evolution, now, to me, we can't refute what science has told us. It's funny because a lot of supporters of creationism, okay, really don't have a problem with using modern technology, especially when it comes to health. You know, so if their son is dying or their daughter is dying, you know, I don't think they're going to be opposed to using the latest and the greatest research and all these other things that advances in technology and science and just biology have given us, right? So we're not afraid to use it to save our lives, but it's this same sort of scientific reasoning and these scientific advances that we use to figure out where we came from, you know, where we originated from and what we evolved from. So how is it that you can, on one end, accept this sort of scientific understanding, okay, but then refute it, okay? And I'll get into why I think people refute it later on in the video. But to me, how can you do that, right? How come all this, you know, how could it be that in one breath, this science can save your life, you know, you need it, you like it, you know, you want the best sort of treatment. When you're sick, you want to go to the doctor and you want to feel good, and, you know, all these medicines and all these different procedures that people are getting done now. This is all based off of scientific breakthroughs. And these sort of scientific breakthroughs are the same things that we use to help us figure out where we come from, you know, what we came from. But it's rejected. So to me, I have a hard time, you know, with understanding where people are coming from in that aspect. You know, why not reject everything, right? You know, if it's not good enough to tell you where you're from, why use it now to save your life, right? So that's where I stand. But even with science, it only goes so far, okay? You know, if you read a science textbook and you're into it, there's a lot of detail and everything makes sense and you can connect the dots and, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, you know, all this linear reasoning. But when it comes to the beginning, the origins, it fails. You know, the whole Big Bang Theory, you know, I've read up on it. You know, I saw all the Discovery Channel specials that they've had on it. And I don't agree with that. Like, it's not even about me agreeing with it, but it's just more so it's not enough for me. Or, you know, some people have this philosophy that it just is, you know, space and matter and just who we are. It just was, right? So space wasn't created. It was just always here. You know, it's so unscientific. Not to say that, you know, it's wrong, but you can't really use science to back it up. So it stops, right? It can't go any further. So you're left hanging. You know, where am I from? Like, how did this all start? Who set the balls in motion? Maybe it's because we as human beings, we can't comprehend everything. Maybe, you know, the whole idea of, you know, where time began or just where life began or just space, maybe it wasn't meant for us to understand. But in terms of science, science really has nothing in that area. It stops, right? You know, there's a big no trespassing sign and you're just left hanging. You know, it's not enough for me to say, oh yeah, the Big Bang Theory happened and then, you know, we have life. or things were just here. That's just how things are. That's not enough for me. So to me, that opens up the door for creationism. I believe that, my God, or, some divine creator, depending on, your viewpoints. I think this entity set the ball in motion. I think they planted a seed and the seed grew. So we use science to figure out how that seed grew and what it does, right? That's my opinion. I believe that God set things in motion. Maybe not the way the Bible says it or how other people want to believe, but I believe he set it in motion. I believe he set it in motion so that we can figure out what's going on as well. A lot of people have this biblical type of understanding where, God placed you on almost like a play set, right? And you're putting your action figures on some play set, and he breathed life on you. He put the breath of life into you, and you just started moving around. I don't really believe in all that. I know the Bible has their explanations, but once again, it goes back to science. Science doesn't really back that up, right? And once again, it goes back to the whole idea of, you can trust the science to save your life, but you can't trust it in terms of telling you where you came from or what you came from, right? So it just leaves you hanging. To me, you can't refute what science has done. But at the end of the day, science fails you. And you have to believe in something greater than just you. You have to believe in something bigger than you, in my opinion. The whole idea of things just being here just because, or some, miraculous little speck of dust somehow exploded into what we have as the universe. I don't agree with it. I think somebody set things into motion, and it didn't happen the way we want to think it did. I think it was slow and gradual, and we use science to figure out. We use science to figure out how that seed grew and how that seed changed into different forms and how it evolved into what we have now. Right? That's my understanding, or that's just my feelings. And I know there's literature out there that kind of goes over the connection between science and religion. Maybe if I have time in the future, I can really put myself into that mode where I'm understanding more. But as of now, just off of my basic reasoning skills, I have to go with both, because one by itself doesn't do it for me. And then my last part of this video before I end it, I also think in terms of people who believe in creationism, not all, but I think a lot of it has to do with racial superiority. Think about it. If somehow science proved that human beings evolved from Europe and we, evolved from some European animal, I think personally no one would have a problem with the whole idea of evolution. And I think somewhere down the line, people would have made it work. The whole idea of evolution and religion, creationism, it all been mashed together in terms of one big theory in terms of how human beings are here. But because the science has said that people have come from Africa and people have evolved from apes and monkeys, and I know there's a more technical term too in terms of what we evolved from, so excuse my ignorance, but since that's pretty much put out there, I think a lot of people have a problem with it. Historically, Africa's always been viewed as some savage place with, savage people at one point in time in, the history of mankind. We weren't even humans. We were below humans. The word monkey and ape is used to degrade black people or to mock or make fun of. So how many people are going to believe that you, first of all, you came from Africa, the dark savage continent, and you came from monkeys and apes, a word that is used to insult black people? How many people are going to believe that? Not too many. So for me, it makes sense to see why a lot of people who are racist would hold on to the whole idea of creationism. That's the only way they can remove themselves from that whole idea of coming from Africa or evolving from Africa. But like I said before, if the science proves that we came from Europe, right, and we evolved from some, European animal, I don't know, call it what you want to call it, I think there would be this push to somehow include science and religion to make it all work, so everybody can say, yeah, see, look, scientifically, God said people started in Europe, and we have science to back it up. But because science doesn't back it up, it's this whole idea of, we're going to super duper reject it. We're going to fire you if you teach our kids about evolution. We're going to threaten to walk out. We're going to do all these things because you're preaching this blasphemy. How dare you say that I come from Africa? How dare you say I come from a monkey or an ape? So, just putting it out there, food for thought. You guys take it easy. Tell me how you feel. Once again, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but those are my beliefs. 1.